New Zealand, genuinely one of the most beautiful countries in the world. It is known for its breathtaking landscapes, and a lot of that beauty is a result of its extreme remoteness. So much so that it's often left off global maps, and its population is relatively small, sitting at just 5.3 million people. These people enjoy an extraordinarily high standard of living, a good education system, stable government, excellent healthcare, and a society that tends to be quite egalitarian. Now, while all of this might sound like it's straight out of a tourism brochure, it has also led to some unexpected consequences for the national economy, an economy that was already very unique in its own right. What is happening is that Kiwis are seeing their country, a place that may seem like a dreamland to the rest of the world, and they're leaving it. From an already small population, New Zealand experiences one of the highest rates of emigration in the world, with the majority of those leaving making the short jump across the Tasman Sea to Australia. In fact, more than 10% of New Zealand's population now lives in Australia. This is no minor issue. In some cases, the rate of people leaving New Zealand is on par with those of third world countries in active conflict. And of course, the natural question that arises is why? To make things worse, most of the people leaving are highly productive workers just starting their careers. While the population continues to grow, it's mostly being fueled by immigration to fill the gaps left by these skilled workers, which in itself is creating more issues, making the whole problem even harder to solve. Adding to the situation, New Zealand is now seeing the opposite problem. A certain group of Australians are flooding into New Zealand, bringing their talents, and doing what Australians do best. But what exactly makes New Zealand's economy so unique? What are the driving factors behind so many Kiwis deciding to leave? And why has this trend been so difficult to reverse? It's like that all too familiar moment when you leave your house, or even a foreign country and realize you've forgotten an important file, or worse, an entire project folder left on your desktop at home. That's exactly why we use AnyDesk. It allows you to remotely access your computer from anywhere. Whether you're pulling up a file, troubleshooting a system, or managing complex workflows, AnyDesk makes it possible. It's been an absolute game changer for us, whether we're reviewing video edits, running dashboards, or transferring large media files directly. No cloud uploads or middlemen involved, just a direct, secure connection from one device to another. And it's not just limited to general setups. AnyDesk works for specialized systems, too. Whether it's 3D printers, retro machines, or even remote rendering rigs, it supports it all, even old machines all the way back to Windows XP. And the best part is that it supports real-time audio pass-through, so you can check sound design or scrub through edits without worrying about audio cutting out. Essentially, it makes working from anywhere feel like you're sitting right at your desk, no matter where in the world that desk may be. It's free for personal use, and there are flexible plans available for teams like ours. Give AnyDesk a try, link in the description. Now, let's get back to New Zealand's unique economy. This country is defined by its small size and extreme remoteness. The entire nation has roughly the same population as the city of Sydney in Australia. And even Australia itself doesn't have a massive population. But New Zealand's small size is both a blessing and a curse. It's a curse because building globally competitive industries in such a small and remote country is incredibly difficult. Almost anything that can be done in New Zealand could easily be done much cheaper, at a much larger scale, and much closer to major shipping lanes in Asia. This problem isn't confined to just traditional heavy industries. Financial services, which are typically a key export for advanced countries, are another example. Why would anyone choose to do their international banking in Auckland when Singapore is much closer to most commercial centers and far more integrated into the global financial system? For business needs, even for financial services aimed at this region, Sydney is just a stone's throw away, with a more widely recognized currency and a larger market. On top of that, the political ties between Australia and New Zealand are so close that almost anything an international business would want to do in New Zealand can be done from Australia. That proximity is an incredibly important factor, so keep that in mind. The takeaway here is that the only industries in New Zealand are those that absolutely need to be there. Tourism, local finance, local services, and regional maritime operations all play roles, but because of the country's small population, there's not a huge need for an expansive range of services. One of the standout sectors is agriculture. New Zealand is one of the most agriculturally productive countries in the world. This is highly unusual for an advanced economy, especially in comparison to other nations. It has used its fertile land, abundant water sources, and modern technology to produce valuable agricultural products that are extremely competitive in the global economy, particularly in Asia, which has a vast population to feed. This is fantastic, but here's the problem. Most well-educated, city-dwelling New Zealanders aren't exactly lining up to work on farms. And the reality is, there aren't many farm jobs anyway. The farms that exist in New Zealand are among the most valuable in the world per hectare. Their extreme fertility, combined with the southern hemisphere climate, allows New Zealand to grow off-season crops that are highly sought after in the northern hemisphere. However, these operations are highly mechanized and require relatively little human labor. So where does that leave the rest of the economy? Well, the largest industries in New Zealand are centered around housing. Selling houses, renting houses, building houses, financing houses, and overseeing all of those processes collectively make up about half of New Zealand's entire economy. This dependency on housing has caused significant problems. The first is in affordability of these houses. When half the economy is built on trading parcels of land, it's hardly surprising that New Zealand has some of the most unaffordable real estate in the world. The government has taken some measures to try to deflate the housing market, such as banning foreign buyers from purchasing property. The idea behind the ban was that by cutting off some of the demand, house prices would decrease. But in reality, it didn't do much. Foreign buyers, especially Australians, made up a tiny percentage of purchases, and the ban did nothing to stop the biggest source of foreign demand: Australians. Australians have a lot of money, and buying a holiday house or retirement property in New Zealand, particularly in places like Queenstown or Auckland, is a very popular choice for wealthy Australians who want to experience the country's beauty without worrying about dangerous wildlife. Even though New Zealand's real estate prices are sky-high, they're still lower than the major cities in Australia. Plus, New Zealand doesn't charge the upfront stamp duty that Australia does, making it a more attractive option for some investors. Of course, most demand for property comes from within the country, but despite some attempts to cool the housing market, prices remain a persistent issue. The problem, though, isn't just about affordable housing, it's about opportunity. Most young New Zealanders who can't afford to start a life in their home country are moving to Australia. And it's not just for cheaper homes. It's because Australia offers more opportunities. This isn't unique. High-skilled workers tend to move to larger commercial centers. If someone wants to be a fine arts curator, a senior manager, or a high-end researcher, those jobs are hard to come by in small rural areas, but they're abundant in big cities. What makes New Zealand's situation different, however, is that the large cities where people are moving for these opportunities are in a different country altogether: Australia. The reason why this is so impactful for New Zealand is that the political and economic relationship between the two countries is more integrated than what most people realize. New Zealanders have full access to live, work, and buy property in Australia, and vice versa. This has created an environment where there's nothing holding New Zealanders back from moving to Australia. The impact is even more significant when it comes to education. Australia has a larger number of universities, and for New Zealand students, they often pay the same tuition as Australian students. This has made the situation even worse for New Zealand. Over 600,000 New Zealanders now live in Australia, more than 10% of the country's population. And the people leaving New Zealand for Australia are young, skilled, and driven. To make up for this loss, New Zealand has had to bring in more immigrants, many from Asia, to fill in the gaps. But many of these immigrants also end up leaving for Australia. So, what does this mean for New Zealand? It's becoming an expensive retirement home for wealthy Australians and Kiwis to enjoy their beautiful scenery, while the local workforce, often made up of immigrants, waits for their turn to move on to Australia. The government knows this is a problem, but tightening the relationship with Australia is politically infeasible. After all, 10% of New Zealand's population lives there, and they're a significant voting bloc. The solution: New Zealand needs to create more opportunities for its young workers. While the country has some advantages, like a low debt to GDP ratio and a beautiful, stable environment, it will need to make some major changes to make sure it doesn't lose more of its skilled workforce to Australia. Until then, though, New Zealand will continue to rely on those intangibles: the safety, the scenery, and the general quality of life that so many find appealing. New Zealand's beauty is undeniable, and its quality of life is a match for many who live there. But the reality is that the economy, with its limited industries, highly reliant on real estate and agriculture, is failing to keep pace with the expectations of its young, ambitious professionals. These individuals are not leaving for the beaches of Australia or the sunny skies of a foreign land. They're leaving in search of opportunity. The stark truth is that the career options available in New Zealand's economy simply aren't enough for a large number of highly skilled workers. With a population of just 5.3 million, New Zealand is a small player in the global economic landscape, and the opportunities that come with being part of a much larger economy like Australia's are far more appealing. Moreover, the ease of migration between the two nations, thanks to their close political and economic ties, only exacerbates the problem. While many young Kiwis move to Australia to advance their careers, it isn't just about the salary bump or cheaper housing. It's about the breadth of opportunities that come with working in one of the world's largest and most dynamic economies. As much as New Zealand has attempted to counteract this issue with immigration policies, the influx of skilled workers often does not stay. Many of the migrants who come to New Zealand seeking better opportunities ultimately follow the same path, migrating to Australia when the time is right. They may stay long enough to establish residency, but the lure of Sydney or Melbourne proves irresistible once they've gotten a taste of what the bigger cities have to offer. So, what's the solution? Can New Zealand fix its economy and stop this continuous exodus of talent? It's not going to be easy, but it isn't entirely impossible either. New Zealand has a lot to offer, and it doesn't have to lose its skilled workers permanently. For starters, the government could invest in industries beyond real estate and agriculture. By diversifying the economy and encouraging innovation, New Zealand could create more career opportunities that attract and retain young professionals. This could mean investing in technology, fintech, or research and development sectors that allow the country to compete globally in areas outside of farming and property. Additionally, New Zealand's housing crisis needs to be addressed more aggressively. While recent government policies, such as banning foreign buyers, have been a step in the right direction, they haven't been enough to address the core issue of affordable housing. More affordable housing initiatives, combined with a better balance between supply and demand, could keep more young Kiwis in the country, helping them build their futures without feeling priced out. Another key factor is the education system. New Zealand already has world-class institutions, but if the country were to further integrate itself into the global educational system, offering more programs and partnerships with international universities, it could attract more students to stay. Moreover, offering opportunities for graduates to remain and work in the country without the need to migrate could ease the brain drain. Finally, New Zealand must play to its strengths. The country is still one of the safest, most stable, and cleanest countries in the world. It offers a high quality of life and a stunning natural environment. If it can manage to create more work opportunities while maintaining its natural allure, it might just find the right balance between prosperity and the lifestyle it's known for. But reversing the trend of emigration will take time and significant effort. It will require a shift in both government policy and economic strategy. New Zealand can't simply rely on its picturesque landscapes and peaceful atmosphere to hold onto its brightest young minds. The country will need to innovate and diversify its industries, address the housing crisis, and create a work environment where ambition can thrive without being overshadowed by the larger, more competitive economies nearby. In the end, New Zealand's challenge isn't just about holding onto its people, it's about ensuring that its future generations have the tools, opportunities, and incentives to stay and help build an even better country. The nation may be small, but with the right focus and effort, it can continue to offer the kind of quality of life that keeps both its current residents and future citizens calling it home. Until then, the golden shores of Australia will remain an alluring destination for many of New Zealand's brightest and most ambitious, leaving the Kiwi economy to grapple with the reality of this ongoing brain drain. But as history has shown, even the hardest challenges can lead to meaningful change. New Zealand may just find a way to turn the tide and keep its young workers right where they belong at home, on the beautiful islands they love. In the meantime, the world watches, and both New Zealand and Australia continue their complex dance of opportunity, migration, and the pursuit of the ever-elusive perfect balance. But no matter what the future holds, one thing is clear: New Zealand is a country worth watching, and it's far from being. As New Zealand stands at a crossroads, the question remains, can the country reverse this migration trend, or will it continue to be a place of dreams for some but a stepping stone for others? It's clear that New Zealand is in a unique position, surrounded by natural beauty, offering an unparalleled quality of life, but also facing the challenges of a small, remote economy. While the government can take steps to address the housing crisis and diversify the economy, it's also about creating a long-term vision where young professionals feel they can build a future without feeling the pull of a larger, more opportunity-rich economy just across the water. New Zealand is fortunate in many ways, blessed with a peaceful, stable environment that many around the world long for. But it is that very stability, combined with a lack of global competition, that has inadvertently led to its economic stagnation in some sectors. It is not the beauty of the country or the charm of its people that's at risk, it is the future workforce. The talent leaving New Zealand isn't just any talent. These are skilled, ambitious, and educated individuals, the backbone of any country's future. For them, the world is their oyster, and while they may leave with a heavy heart, the opportunities in places like Australia beckon. The larger question, though, is whether this trend will ever be reversed or if New Zealand must adapt. Many will argue that the exodus could be a necessary step for both countries, with New Zealand continuing to play a critical role in the region, focusing on what it does best while allowing for the natural exchange of talent and capital with Australia. However, the solution lies not in merely stemming the flow of people, but in creating a robust, competitive environment within New Zealand that attracts its own back home, as well as the next generation of talent. It's about showing young Kiwis that they don't have to look across the Tasman Sea to find a fulfilling career. They can find it right in their backyard. In the end, New Zealand's future may depend not on stopping its citizens from leaving, but on ensuring that those who stay have the opportunity to flourish, to innovate, and to lead. This will be the real test of its resilience. The reality is that this issue is not isolated to New Zealand. Many small, remote countries struggle with the same challenges, young professionals leaving in search of bigger, more competitive markets. But it's New Zealand's charm, its people, and its stunning landscapes that make this situation all the more bittersweet. Even as New Zealand faces an uncertain future, its unique role in the global economy and its unrivaled beauty will continue to capture hearts. And who knows? As the world evolves, New Zealand might find itself at the forefront of a new wave of innovation, drawing in not just talent, but the dreams of the next generation of global thinkers and doers. For now, though, New Zealand's story is far from over. It will continue to evolve, with its people navigating the tightrope between home and opportunity, always searching for that perfect balance, a place where the opportunities are as abundant as the stunning views. New Zealand's potential is as vast as the land itself, and with the right investment, it could become a true global leader. But until that moment arrives, one thing is certain: those who call this country home will continue to fight for their future, and the world will watch to see where that fight leads. And with that, New Zealand's story is still being written. What comes next may define not only its future but the future of small nations everywhere.